everyone. It's 3 a.m. So when I finish this thing, if all goes according to plan, and like the last 3 nights, it's gonna be 3:33 a.m. But like clockwork, I'm up at the same time, and I think I'm just gonna run with it right now. I have a really cool schedule. It doesn't really make sense to a lot of people. Even seems like when I meet people for the first time, like they just kind of almost telepathically like look into my life and are like, "What? I don't get it. Like, what are you doing?" I don't know. It's just I've really been just letting go of yeah, the attachment to the freaking, I guess, like 9 to 5, and even just the whole idea that I have to like spend all my time kind of like slaving for money my whole life, which I've been doing for like my whole life. Like, it's like ever since I was like in kindergarten, and then it was like first grade, it was like school, like prepare to be a slave, and then get used to sitting in a desk and it's sucking, and do that through high school and then college, and you know and then office and work, and but then I know work doesn't have to suck, and I love working, but it's not even, it's the working for the dollar all the time that is just, I just am like trying to play with it. I'm not saying I'm never going to do it again, but I am really just playing with, like working and doing what I love and doing what I think is important in the world, and not really thinking too much about, oh, how much am I going to get paid for that? When money shows up all the time. And I'm like, yes, thank you very much. Sometimes I even feel like I'm pushing it away. Like people are like, oh, can I pay you for that? And I'm like, it's all good. I'm figuring out ways as far as like living situations, cars and stuff. And yeah, it's not, I don't know. I think it is actually pretty ideal. I think it might even be more ideal. Um, but I honestly think like the whole system is set up to, and I'm not saying that there's a bad guy there. I'm just saying like governments and stuff, like they want productive people because that's like a productive country, and so there's systems set up to make people productive and like get you using as much time as possible to work towards a better country, and that's what the systems are for. And it's to, money is a way of getting people productive and spending their time working for the paradigm that we've been living in, which is the paradigm we've all chosen to live in, and we've been doing it, and it's been an important piece of our evolution. It's just changing now, and I think there's a lot of artists and light workers and people who are just like, I just don't want to do it anymore, and they don't resonate with it. And I think we got to start figuring out, like, okay, how do we make this work? And it's not about revolution. Well, I mean, we could do revolution, but it's not even about that. We don't even have to do that. We just start doing. We just find we are creative. Like, if you are an artist, if you are a light worker, if you are a person who is connected to your soul, you you have creative superpowers, and we are going to use those creative superpowers to figure out how to make the best thing possible. And we don't need to ask for permission. We just do it, and that's what we're going to start doing. And like, we got to understand also that we're working with lower I know it sounds bad, but it's true, like kind of in some ways lower minded folk, in people who are not connected to their heart, people who are still in their mind, and then their ego are just not as capable of grasping, or it's kind of like more of a fear based way of navigating. And it's always like, what's going to happen? How am I going to survive? What am I worth? Are people going to know? Like, it's like this, it's a different way of thinking, and it kind of, you just don't have the, I guess, intellectual, like, powers or abilities in some ways. I mean, not intellectual, like, mathematics or memorizing things or taking tests, but the ability to see the widespread, you know, ecosystem that you're a part of. That's the heart. And the heart is like it can see everything. It gets everything. It understands far and wide, up and down. It can connect to spirit. It can connect to all sorts of things. And you get here just by simply, you know, it's like, it's funny because it's like what we always talk about. You don't sell your soul. You know, you get to your heart by just not selling your soul, which means just being yourself, and putting nothing above who you are, and you being your most authentic version of yourself. You're not going to not be authentic because you care what somebody thinks. You're going to be who you are, you know? You're going to speak what's true to you, because why not? You know, you're serving this, number one. You're serving your most authentic self, number one. That is your soul. You could spin it like that is who God made you to be. I mean, if you're coming from a religious background, which there's lots of truth to that, like God, you were created, you were knitted together for a very specific purpose by God, and God made you for that reason, and you need to, you know, for you to be that, and not for, you know, be something else. Like, that is to be connected to your soul purpose, the soul of who you are, is by being who you are, who you were made to be, and not sacrificing who you are to be something else because, you know, Nike or Intel want you to be something else, or the school system wants you to be something else, or, you know, Instagram influencers say you should be this way if you want to be successful, or, you know, people who say you should this or you should that. You know, people who say that, a lot of times, if you look closer at them, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're running around telling everybody else they should, because they are still trying to figure out themselves. And so nobody knows you better than you. And so be yourself. That is what it means to be connected to your soul. And the more you nurture that, and the more you are just who you are, even if you make mistakes, you know, even if you're like, wow, I'm going to be this because I think this is who I am. And then, oh, actually, I'm not that anymore. I'm actually not that. Well, then cool. You know, you have the right and the freedom to explore something, go down deep, dark caves, follow them to the end, and be like, no, this is actually not me. And then you always know it's not you. But that is what it means to live for, you know, putting God first, putting your soul first, not selling your soul, you know, not selling your soul for money, not selling your soul for people's approval, not selling your soul for anything. And when you don't sell your soul, you actually gain your soul's superpower, which is like the most incredible thing you can ever possibly imagine. It's, you know, I mean, I think probably a lot of people are feeling that right now. And I am also speaking to the people who are watching this video in the future, because, you know, I only get like 10 or 20 people watching my videos right now. But in the future, maybe a year from now, maybe 10 years from now, maybe 100 years from now, I've got millions of people watching these videos. And so to you guys, you know, I'm sure many of you are very connected to this message because we're much further along by now. And yeah, you understand that the power of the heart. And when you know, the mind, like when we start going from here, like the whole idea of heaven on earth, like the mind can't even get it. It can't. It will freaking break. You know, like that Grateful Dead thing with the thing in the mind, blue and red, is just like breaking, you know? I don't know what that means exactly, but when I see that, I think in some ways the mind can't hold it. You know, the mind has a very specific role. The ego has a very specific role, but it's not to carry all of it. And as you start traveling and starting to grasp the vastness of this universe that you're in, and what we're actually a part of, and what you're actually capable of doing, it's too big for the mind, and the mind will start to freaking crack. And at some point, you know, it's like you got to communicate with your organs, or you got to start connecting with your body enough to be able to send a message to it to say, like, we're crossing the bridge and we're going into the heart. And you know, you've got angels, you've got the entire universe at your service, especially when you're approaching that bridge, when you're going to make that crossing. Everybody's there, and they're all supporting you, and you cannot fail. But it is intense. It's like that part in the Neverending Story where he's got to cross through those two big statues and they shoot at him. Or, you know, the Indiana Jones movie where he's got to take the leap of faith. You know, there's so many analogies, or use the force, Luke, like, there's so many analogies in our stories that are about crossing that bridge. And yeah, so I am pretty new to this. I'm just a baby. I am very new, but I'm truly like living my life for my soul. And it's almost like, fuck you, I won't even give even 1 inch of my time, my energy for anything that is not authentic to me. Now, I'll freaking work at a mechanic shop, and because I like love the idea of learning how to work on cars and stuff. I'll work there for free, or for a little bit of money. I will make chocolate all day long. I won't sell it to a freaking grocery store, because that's what's fun about that. Like, I'll sell it to people in person. I'll sell it to people I connect with online. I'll sell, yeah, there's so many ways to make money here, you guys. It's so easy. Um, like, I'm putting the most minimum effort into making money. And yeah, people are like, don't you want to make all this money to be able to help the world? No, I really don't. I don't think that's the answer. I don't think making tons of money and creating a big pile of money is going to solve the world's problems at all. I mean, I've been around people who have bottomless pits of money that have feelings that they want to help the world with it, and I just look at all the problems that come with that. I'm not saying it's not helpful in some ways, but I find, like, a lot of people who have a lot of money, they get addicted to it, and it kind of like masters them in ways, even if they don't even know it. Even if they're generous and stuff, like, there's this little thing, and I think you have to let it all go. I think you have to. I do think, and we're gonna get to this like down the line. We're not even close to this point yet, but we are gonna get to a point where this heaven on earth thing is gonna become very real. And one of the ways that's gonna have to happen is you're gonna have to give away everything. You're gonna have to walk through that. You're gonna have to cross that bridge with nothing in your possessions, and that's gonna mean giving your stuff away, and that's gonna create a really cool kind of economical effect where people who have nothing will all of a sudden have tons, and the value of money is going to get weird. And we'll find other ways of currency that really actually value a person's soul and a soul purpose. Like, money is useful, currency is useful. It's just right now it doesn't really value like you living for your soul, and that's really the only thing we really need right now. And I'm not saying that's how it's always been. I'm not saying that the last 2,000 years or 1,000 years or something, like, yeah, money should have been to always value your soul. No, not necessarily. Like, we've been on this path, and we've had to go down this path of kind of almost losing ourselves and going to the dark, and almost like detaching from our soul's purpose to kind of reach a certain place technologically, so that we can come back to ourselves with what we know now and what we learned in the dark, and use those technologies to take us to greater heights. And I think that's just kind of the way we do it. And so it's really exciting, and I'm having a great time doing it, and I'm having a great time making these videos, even at 3:30 a.m. This morning I was thinking, I made a video recently about my art, and I was going to share more of my art this morning, and maybe talk more about different things, but this is my art that I do. And as you can see, I make these little, I just make lines. I paint shapes. I never know what I'm actually going to paint, and sometimes really cool stuff happens. Sometimes not so cool stuff happens. Like, I love these circles. This thing down here, I don't even know if I actually did that. Actually, I don't think I did that. I think that was somebody else drawing the page with me, because I'm like, I don't know if I like that as much. This painting, I'm going to tell you guys, is one of my favorite paintings. This was made by, this was made by me, but I feel like I was channeling Picasso or something, because now you gotta realize, like, I did not know what I was painting when I was painting this. In fact, I don't even think this was like, I think this painting, I was painting it more like upside down or something, or I was just painting these shapes, and at one point, I turned it, and I realized it was this guy, and I added the chair afterwards, but I realized it was a guy who was like standing in this really interesting position, and it's like he's got his finger up in the air and he's making a point. But his face, if you look at his face, like his face is this way, but it's also pointed down through his chin. And you look at those energetic lines, even like these lines. Like when I paint these lines, I don't know why I'm painting them or where they're going, but this became his hand, and it says his hand kind of reaches throughout his body, and he's got his nipples, and you know, this painting was like one of my first paintings that I realized that as I was painting these lines and these shapes, like something else was kind of painting through me, because there's no way I could have painted this if somebody would have told me, can you paint me an abstract painting of a guy like standing making a point, and this came through. Now what's even more interesting is during the time when I painted this, I was roommates with a guy named Tony. He was from Spain. His family was from Cuba. But he was a very loud, and he was always on the phone talking with his friend, and he was like, blah, 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 and I think this was Tony. Like, I call this painting Tony because like this is really the energy of Tony, and I just love the way this painting turned out. So this is one of my favorites. This is one of my earlier paintings. When I was just trying to figure it out. I think I was trying to paint a fish. But then this was when I was, this thing right here is something I wasn't really sure what I was painting, and I really loved how it turned out. This is way back in 4/21/2015. I was going through some dark stuff at this time. Like, this is when I first picked up my paintbrush. Oh, it's kind of like, looks like Ganesha. Look at that. Yeah, it does look like Ganesha. See, I didn't even plan to do that. That just is there. But, during this time I was going through one of my darkest periods of my life. I was going through my own personal ego death, my dark night of the soul, which for me, I've told people this before, it was one of the scariest times of my life. And what I did see during that time is what started it. I've been pretty obsessed with creating heaven on earth, living for God, saving the world my whole life. I don't know if that's normal or not. Probably not. But it's been my thing my whole life. I've been like, trying to save the world from the bad guys. I'm not there anymore because I don't really believe that there is bad guys. Actually, I just think there's sick people and people who are confused, and I think that we have been confused together for a reason. So if there is a bad guy, that bad guy also lives in me, and so I can't be looking at somebody else saying you're a bad guy. But back when I was here, in my mind and my ego, there was many bad guys. There was me, and I was a good guy, and then there was lots of bad guys, and I had to find the bad guys and somehow stop them. And that's stupid. But that's the mind, and that's kind of just the way you see it, because we're all one and we're all connected. And so, but the mind can't really grasp that. And so I reached a point, and Spirit was leading me there. Spirit was like pushing me to break myself. And I was in such a strong place. I was in such a happy place. I was in such a joyous place. But there was something like it was like I was building it, and it was like 3 legs of a chair, but one leg was really, really like rotting. And I was like, trying to adjust my weight and all the time. And I was like, yeah, I'm really doing great here. But yet I could feel one of the legs of the chair was kind of rotting and not very strong. And Spirit was like, kind of trying to push me to, unknowingly break the leg of the chair and just crash, and because that's what needed to happen, and so eventually it happened, and I crashed. And when I crashed, I went, that was the period when I went from my mind to my heart, because this mind thing just crashed, and it felt like in a lot of ways losing my mind, but it was also a time where I felt the most clear ever, because almost immediately when this broke, I went into my heart and I could see everything. And at that point I could see humanity's paths, and I I had been able to see the heaven on earth path for a long time, but I also got to see what would happen if humanity, like, if we collectively sold our soul to something like money, or to, a government, or to, whatever we chose, to some silly idea that wasn't us. I could see what that path would lead us to, and it was so bad. Like, ugh, you guys, like, I will never speak of this. I will never speak of the things I saw, ever. It was so bad, and during that time, like, I felt like I couldn't speak to anybody about it, because if people knew, I didn't want to put this information into the collective mind. I didn't want to start using my words to speak, because it felt so real. I was like, oh my God, like, the things I was seeing, it was like as if it was to be, and it was so scary, and it was so sad, and I believe now that is, that was a path that humanity was on. If we chose to, let's just keep going down this route and sell our souls, and not really value our souls, and instead let's value money and a facade instead, and what that does. I mean, it's incredible to see, like, how valuable humanity is when we are connected to our heart and to our soul. Like, as we put our soul first, as we put God first, as we put our authenticity first, we are so fucking valuable to the planet, to the universe, to everything, the big picture of things. If we take this off the throne and we, throw it to the side and say, yeah, instead I want to put my face and my hair and my appearance and money and riches as number one, we're like trash. We're like useless. The most useless. We're totally useless. And it's like, well, what do you do with trash? You recycle it, and it's just like, but what does that even look like? And that's the fucking thing I will never talk about, because it is so fucked up. And but I will also say, it's not even a question anymore. We have crossed. We are there. We may not be there in this, time, but on linear time, but in quantum time, we are there. We've crossed over. And, it's just like the baby is being born, the baby is born, and we are that baby, and it's happening. And it's going to be such a fun ride, and it's going to be exciting. And it's like, yeah, it's going to be confusing. We're all going to have to make this transition in different ways. But I think the more and more of us who do it, we're going to make it easier for everybody. And yeah, so it's quite exciting. But yeah, during that time, I remember painting this painting of this tree. And this tree was like kind of a scary tree. And this led to one of the scariest nights of my life. I was like on the street in Denver, Colorado, and that city was fucking with me, man. Oh my God, there was some scary stuff there. This was also a painting that I did at the time that was kind of resembling what was going on for me then. I felt like I was like spilling my purple paint, like my crown chakra, and I was losing my red balloon. It was kind of like metaphorical for I was, lost my root, and I was also spilling my paint, because I was like so much from living from my crown chakra that I wasn't really valuing my root, being rooted, and so it was like losing my balloon. So this is a cool piece. I don't know what it is, and some of these, like, you can look at them in different ways. And this flower, one of my earlier pieces. I got a bunch of cool stuff here. Oh, wow, look at all this stuff, you guys. So I'm gonna go through some of these kind of fast. I'm pretty obsessed with the flower of life. As you can see, this is my mom and dad. Sometimes I draw things on back. But yeah, I have all these flowers of life that I draw, and there's names on back because I've drawn. These are the names of the people I drew this flower of life with when I told them the story of the flower of life and how to use the flower of life in order to find your soul's purpose, and how we as humanity are going to use the flower of life in order to create heaven on earth. And I haven't even told that on video, but I will. But yeah, this flower of life was done at a very important time. This is one flower of life is mine, one is another friend, and one is very clear and one is kind of cloudy. And it was about like kind of like clarifying an idea. This is a really cool one right here. Yeah, lots of flowers of life. Then there's things like this. I love this one. This is an earlier piece. I can see two humans up top, like standing by side. It's like two spirit beings, and then a person in the middle. Oh, I remember. I love this one. This is. I mean, this one is not as aesthetically pleasing, but gosh, this was done by like two different people, me and one other person. I love doing these things with another person where we take turns drawing a shape and just see what happens. And gosh, the things that evolve sometimes are so beautiful. I love these birds that came about in the upper corner. You can see like, you know, people like this person with their hands raised. This is just a really fun one for me. This was made with me and my friend Ria. This was made at a drawing group, and it looks like kind of like an Aztec person. This one has some special value to it. I can't remember what it is, but this one is a special painting in some way, I think. I can't remember why, but there's some... I didn't even make any notes on it, but for some reason I remember painting this one, and it meant something. This is a really cool one too. Oh. At one point I thought I would want to draw erotic art, so here's a naked woman that looks pretty beautiful. It's purple. I don't think I meant for this one to be a penis, but it does kind of look like a penis. I think it just kind of became like that. This one kind of looks like a dragon. Oh my gosh. All right, I'm going to tell a story about this next one. This next one is so special to me because this is a great example of what makes this art style so special. So I was just hanging out at my shop, just painting random stuff. Look, a little something. It looks like a duck. I was putting some notes. I was writing down some names. You know, I think I was on the phone talking to like some bill company, and I was just painting this thing right here. You know, nothing too spectacular, you know. But then weeks later, I had met this person who's become like one of my best friends. And this was pretty early on in our friendship, but we were hanging out at Edgefield. Their name's Jasper Duck. And I wanted to show them my painting style, and I didn't really have any paper or anything. And so I went to the front desk and I got a piece of scrap paper. As you can see, it's got little lines and stuff. It's not even a good piece of paper. It's like a piece of crap paper. And we just started painting. And I said, okay, you draw one shape and I'll draw another shape. And we took turns drawing shapes. And, you know, like they had never done this kind of art before, so they would draw shapes that was not really, you know, as proficient as my kind of style, because they'd never painted it before. But this, we kept painting and we kept painting. And eventually this shape this is the painting that showed up. This is what we drew together. And, you know, I wouldn't call it the masterpiece or anything, but a few days later, I was hanging out and I realized that these two paintings, I can't remember how it works. Let's see here. I realized that these two paintings go together. somehow. I think, how does it work? Well, since I only got a limited time, you can't really see it, but these paintings actually, like if you put them together a certain way, they go together perfectly. It's really kind of crazy, and I just like they match. Like, oh yeah, like this, you can kind of see it. You can see it right there. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of it right here. Like they fit together, and I was just like, how in the world, when I was painting this, and then I was painting this, and I wasn't even thinking of this. I had this one nowhere near, and then they matched together so perfectly. And this painting, when I saw it, I thought immediately of the character from Wicked named Elphaba, because I love the musical Wicked. At the time, I didn't know they were making a movie of Wicked, but I saw this painting of Elphaba, and I thought, oh, this is Elphaba. My friend Jasper had never heard, or I mean, they had heard of Wicked, but they never had, they weren't. I don't think they had seen it before, and since then, over this last year, we have gone to see the Broadway musical Wicked. The movie Wicked has come out, and Jasper is freaking obsessed with Elphaba. Like, she wears Elphaba clothing. She carries around what is it called?
A
Grimoire, which is like this spell book. She's got a bag that's the spell book. Like, she's just completely obsessed with Elphaba, and in some ways she is Elphaba. Like Elphaba, the archetype of Elphaba is just somebody who was like kind of mistreated most of their life and didn't see their value, and then all of a sudden, like, they kind of tuned into their magic, and they saw like how amazing they are. And that's kind of like what I'm experiencing with my friend Jasper. Like, when I met them, they had no friends. They really didn't think that they were really much of anything, but as they've tuned into their soul, as they've kind of started doing these practices, like, they're obsessed with drawing the flower of life now. They have been healing themselves. They had so many, like the medical system had told them, you're sick, you're mentally deranged, you've got mental problems, you've got mental disabilities. Dude, this person's like a genius, and it's like they're kind of unraveling the stories, and yeah, this is their bag. It's a Wicked bag that looks like the spell book from Wicked. So anyway, yeah, we're coming up on 3:33, and yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I love you guys, and thank you for being with me while I'm learning how to speak.